Welcome to High Ground. My name is Tanner, and in this video, I want to take a look at some stats for the NAL Stage Number 2 2022 season. Okay, so these come from the Soniqs. This was posted by Super, so thank you to Super for that, and thank you to the whoever it was at the Soniqs that worked on this. I suppose whoever collected, compiled, and presented this data in these graphics. So again, four things to look at. The first one is maybe the most dense, and okay, let's take a look. So compared to CGG, which you may or may not be familiar with, these stats certainly favor support-oriented actions more. I don't know the extent of what data they collect and apply here, but at the very least, plants go a much longer way. Maybe there is other things tracked by the Soniqs that are not tracked by CGG, but I don't know that for certain. So you'll see a lot of the support players much more highly rated from the Soniqs than they are from CGG. That's, I suppose, the main difference, and probably they get a lot more of a fair shake here. Maybe they're even slightly overrated. I can't say that for sure. It's much too hard for me to call, but I certainly will say that they are very massively underrated by CGG. So it's nice to see somebody taking at least plants, if not other support-oriented actions, much more into account. Okay, so what are we looking at? We have the top 15 players for overall rating, then we have it separated into attack and defense, and then we have the team stuff, and the next slide actually talks more about team stuff, so maybe we'll look at that when we go to the next slide. Okay, so this is not my first take doing this video. I got talking for way too long. Let's see if I can speed it up here. I'm maybe just going to talk about the top players of, the top of the top, I guess. All right, going down the line for a little bit, Newers in a really, really impressive stage coming out from him here. Not his first stage. This is his second stage. The last one was his rookie stage, but he is, I suppose, still in his rookie season, rookie year. So, I mean, the growth this guy has undergone, I suppose, since just stage number 1 is incredible. He was very, very good for about the first half of stage 1. He sort of fell off. His stats ended up being pretty average, but his team still ended up doing very well. Certainly overshadowed statistically by his teammate Vertical, but now it is Vertical that is living in the shadow of Newers this stage, at least statistically. And you see him really, really good on attack, but still quite good on defense, number 10 here. But again, just look at this, the highest rating on either attack or defense, and it is on attack. And maybe that sort of makes sense. Finka is so good. He is the Finka player for that team. That team did very good, and attack is just much stronger than it is in the current meta, probably than it ever has been. Well, maybe you can discuss about the Lion meta, but whatever. Okay. Yeah, great coming out from Newers. He had a really good performance at the major and continued it into the stage. Let's see what he can do going forward. Then we have Grixer, the second highest rated player, and this guy is always top 10 rated. I think he's been top 4 rated every stage except for one. I think it was stage number 2 last year. Other than that, he was the top rated player. He got like first, 8th, 4th, second, something like that, over the course of the 5 NAL stages, which is just a monster performance. If there was any argument between him and Hot and Cold last year, the argument has been answered. Hot and Cold, 2 not very impressive stages coming out in a row, and of course with them being the 2 most recent stages, that is especially important. So it's entirely possible that Grixer is just the best player in the world at the moment, but I think you can pretty easily say that he is definitely the best player in North America at the moment in the NAL. Okay, so what else? I guess maybe nothing else to say about Grixer. Very good on attack, but also very good on defense right here. So yeah, number 3 and number 6. Okay, and then we have Gunnar. We have Iconic, Kansan. Gunnar, this is his rookie stage, so Newers is on his second stage, Gunnar on his first. Maybe not as impressive of a performance, but again, I think Gunnar did better in his rookie stage than Newers did in Newers' rookie stage. And Gunnar, one of the best players on defense, the second best in fact, and much worse on attack. But does he appear on here? 1.2, maybe not. Yeah, I suppose he probably has around a 1.05 rating on attack. So not cracking the top 15, but his defense stats very, very impressive. Iconic, a pretty rough stage for him last stage, a really big bounce back coming into this one. He was so good. I mean, pretty much every stage that he's played in Tier 1 play up until last stage. Maybe he had a couple in the past that weren't. It's extremely impressive, but maybe not all of last year. Okay, all of this to say that he's been a very, very good player, and maybe his performance last stage was not reflective of how good he is overall. Okay, then we have Kansan, and a very good stage coming out from him. I think he fell off maybe a little bit in terms of where he was at the beginning of the stage. He was doing so well, and still obviously very good, 5th highest rated player. Just maybe his rating went down a tiny bit. And then I guess that's all I really want to talk about for overall. I'll mention Surf, the best player on defense, but much better on defense than he was on attack. You see the disparity between the defense and overall. That means he's like maybe around a 0.9-ish, 0.8 something rating on attack. So massive disparity there. Perhaps the biggest biggest disparity. I guess I can't see the full stats, but I have to imagine. Iconic, really, really good on defense. Same thing with NJR. These two players are sort of linked in a lot of people's minds. They were the two most prolific players from a certain T3 team that Jane I know was also on, but usually when people talk about that team, they more so talk about Iconic and NJR. Here they are on the exact same defense rating. Bolo, this might be it's certainly a massive bounce back. Bolo was one of the lowest rated players last stage, like, or was he the lowest or the second? He hit so badly last stage, and especially badly on either attack or defense. And I can't quite remember which one it was. I thought it was defense. So if it is defense, massive bounce back, being the fifth highest rated player on defense here. And if it was attack, then probably still also a pretty big bounce back on defense. And then, all right, I think that's all I want to talk about here. This information is on the next slide, so let's take a look at that one. Yeah, here we have the team stats. So you might have seen the meme of Obama giving Obama a medal, like putting the medal on himself, and that was compared to what Soniqs did here. And of course, by their metrics, yeah, they have the highest rating. Maybe they gave themselves a tiebreaker versus Oxygen. Probably if you just didn't cut off if you didn't round to this number, it's probably higher. That's probably why they're higher up, but I don't know. You never know. Maybe they just wanted to be number one, but obviously very impressive from them overall. They ended up in second place, Oxygen in third place, and it was Astralis ending up in first place, even though they are only the fourth highest rated team overall on average. And then Xset was, I guess they were fourth, right? And so the top four highest rated teams are still the top four teams, are still the four teams going to the major, and then Parabellum ended up in fifth place. No, they ended up in sixth place. I think Dark Zero ended up in fifth place above them. Okay, but looking at attack versus defense, Soniqs really, really good on attack and still pretty good on defense, but obviously much better on attack. The only team to place in the same position on attack and defense is Parabellum. A little bit better on attack, but still fifth best on attack and defense. Oxygen pretty close at third and fourth. And besides that, there is a lot of massive disparities. Again, there's the Soniqs, and then we see SSG and TSM much better on attack than defense. Probably a lot of the disparities between teams has to do with the maps that they played. If you play a lot of Oregon or Villa or whatever other map, maybe you'll look much better on defense. And if you play a lot of Chalet and Bank and whatever, maybe you'll be much higher rated on attack. I do like to think that that's not the biggest thing. It probably averaged out fairly well. Even if some maps are attacker defender sided, they're usually close to 50-50. So I do like to think this is fairly representative, but again, not all teams were playing the same map. So you do have to take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. SSG were pretty notably very bad on defense, but I didn't think they were this good on attack. But again, might have been to with the map. Same kind of thing with TSM, really bad on defense, but quite good on attack. Mirage, on the other hand, dreadful on attack, by far the lowest rating in either category, but they were not the worst on defense, even though they were the worst placing teams. They were at the very bottom, and then these are actually the bottom three teams. They do end up on the bottom here. And also I noticed these top four teams, these are the four teams that went to the major last year. So this is probably just happenstance. Maybe there's a little bit of correlation there. Maybe the teams that went to the major, they took some good notes on how defense should be played and is played in an international sense, even though there were, a decent number of NA on NA matchups in the bracket. Anyways, it probably isn't terribly significant. I just thought it was funny. And I guess three of these four teams are the ones going to the next major, along with Soniqs, who are a little bit worse on defense, but again, quite good on attack. And anything else I want to point out here? I guess not too much. I mean, Astralis, not especially good on attack, but they were crazy good on defense. That is the team that ended up in number one. So I do wonder if maybe defense is a little bit more important at the time. And I say that for the fact that in the past, you could pretty safely win your defenses. It was very hard to attack, but with repick and the way balancing has gone, it's much easier to attack and thus much harder to defend. Some maps are certainly still defender bastions, but I think overall it has shifted from the initiative being sort of in the hands of the defender to the hands of the attacker. Maybe not in a literal sense, of course. Attackers always needed to take the initiative to win rounds, but I sort of mean maybe the onus is more on defense since it is harder, perhaps. I don't even know for certain. I guess I haven't looked at maybe the global win rate for defense in T1 is still above 50%, but it certainly has shifted more towards the attack, even if it's not technically attacker favor. Okay, a little bit of a tangent there. I think that's it for this. Let's just take a look at the last two slides, and they're actually just operator stats. So the highest and lowest rated player for a bunch of operators, and then we have attack first here. So you'll notice some pretty massive disparities, and probably the ones with super massive disparities have to do with the operator only being played a handful of times by the players that are really highly or lowly rated. I don't think we see a ton of Amaru, but Iconic managed to put up a negative rating on it, Canadian negative rating on IQ, and Hot and Cold on, or excuse me, Laxing on Gridlock here. And I think the biggest disparities are on defense in terms of the highest rated and the lowest rated player. There's some that are above 2.0, but in terms of like magnitudes, this one's obviously gargantuan, and this one as well, vertical, almost like 20 times better than JNNO on Jackal in a sense, depending on scaling and whatnot. And I don't know, what else is there to look at that is super interesting? I think, Super is the highest rated player on 3 operators, Thermite, Lion, and Hibana. And a lot of that rating, I suppose, probably does come from planting, but that might be the most. I didn't go through and actually count who has the most appearances on here in terms of high or low. I guess Melted is a couple pretty low, a couple here. Geo is low here, but he's high here and here. So I don't know whose name appears the most. Maybe Super's the most in a positive sense. Because I don't know if he actually appears at the bottom of any of these. And yeah, the negative thing, I'm curious how low it could go in theory, because the floor on CGG is just 0, but here it could go, I don't know, like maybe negative 1.0 is the lowest you can go. I don't know. I'd be curious to know. And okay, I guess that's all to look at here. Let's go to the final slide, look at the defenders. And all right, so I think this is the biggest disparity, Penguin versus Sweater on Castle. It is a 2.11 disparity. And so again, not in terms of magnitude, but in terms of just the raw number. This one's pretty big as well, over a 2.0. And I think this is the highest rating of anybody on any operator. So NJR on the Bandit with a 2.74 is big, massive. I think there's a couple funny things to look at here. Slashug and Drip, these 2 players on the same team, and one of them's the highest on Echo, one of them's the lowest on Echo, or we're on the same team, if you're not aware of that. Okay, I think it's a little bit funny putting up a 0.41 rating with Alibi. I think technically not the strongest operator, certainly a good operator in the current meta where you do want to take a lot of gunfights. It is a 3-speed with a great gun, secondary shotgun, has a shield. All of this is quite important. But just in terms of raw fragging power, which is where a lot of your rating is going to come from, how you perform in gunfights, Surf did not do very well. And I think it's especially funny because perhaps the best fragging defensive operator, the player with the highest overall defensive rating, Surf, is the lowest rated. So a little bit funny there. 2.28 coming out from Rampy on Azami is super low. I wonder if Rampy was the main Azami on SSG. I can't quite remember. I want to say it was like Fultz or Hot. Maybe it was Rampy though, because if he did play it a ton, which he probably didn't because it is banned so much. It's just curious for such a powerful operator to have anybody with such a low rating. Looking at Smoke, Marmalade I think was the lowest rated player on both Thermite and Smoke, and I think you can pretty clearly trace that to being the hard support player on the worst team in the league, the worst performing team in the league. I'd be curious to see how closely the rating for like the hard breach operators and Smoke in particular correlate to how well your team did. Kool-Aid on Parabellum, obviously Parabellum ended up in like 6th place or something, but I think Kool-Aid was one of the highest, if not the highest rated support player overall. So I wonder if there was like quite a strong trend there. Like is Bosco not rated very highly on them? Because that's the 9th place team. And Geo did really, really well, so probably he breaks that trend if there is a trend there. And okay, I think that's pretty much it. I hope if you wanted to see any of this in particular, you took the time to pause and look through it. But if not, of course, you can just navigate your way to Super's Twitter page and then look at any of this for yourself. And all right, so I think in the future, I do plan to look through the full ratings on CGG. So again, that'll be a little bit different, but they do have much more information than I can view here. So I mean, look forward to that if you enjoy seeing the stat stuff. And I guess I do talk about some non-stats thing through the lens of the stats. And so I guess even if you don't strictly love stats, there might be some interesting conversation there for you. Be sure to tune in. I do appreciate it. What I also appreciate is a like on the video, a subscription on the channel. Probably I should start doing the call to action at the beginning, but I don't know. I never get around to doing it till the end. So all right, any comments though? If you noticed any interesting trends, feel free to let me know. And I suppose if you have any requests or maybe even corrections, if I misspoke in any regard, feel free to leave any of that below. So okay, with all of that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video.